happening. My mom being a pastor and being heavy in ministry was kind of like, well, if you can sing for the world, you can sing for God. If you can sing for the world, boy, you can sing for God. And I was like, oh, you're right. Yeah, I guess. Being in worship ministry, I've seen a lot. I've had some fails and some really cool wins, but all of that has led me to this. It's now my turn to share my journey and remind others you're not alone. Welcome to the Worship Afterisms podcast, where we discuss our worship fails and our faith wins while helping you find your key one afterism at a time. Y'all, we made it. I'm so excited. I can't believe that I have made it to this point. This is the first episode of Worship Afterisms, and I cannot wait to share with each and every one of you my heart, my vision behind the Worship Afterisms podcast. I have so many guests lined up that are amazing people that I just cannot wait for you to hear. But I just want to have a moment with just me and you guys getting to find out a little bit more about me. So first of all, if you're here, you're awesome. And I just want to take the time to welcome you to the Worship Afterisms podcast, y'all. That's amazing. But so many of you probably are wondering, what is Worship Afterisms? Well, what is an afterism is probably the question that so many people are trying to figure out. But when I started actually looking for names for my podcast, which I will share with you vision about how that happened here shortly, I actually came across this slang word called afterism. And afterism is that thing that you think of, or that thought or those words that you wanted to say kind of after a situation has taken place, but you're like, dang, man, I would have got him with him. I would have got him with my big one, with that one, if I had said it just like that. That is an afterism. And I thought it was very fitting when it came to my podcast to name it Worship Afterisms, just because of my heart behind the podcast. So I just wanted to first share with you all, like, how did I come up with Worship Afterisms? Where did it originate? Why did I want to start a podcast? Not Chris August, the worship leader. Like, what the heck? So let's get into it. Me, Chris August, my brand, my music brand, my worship brand. I actually started years ago singing, and it didn't actually start off in worship, which was interesting to me, but also was very ironic, kind of how God began to position me. I actually started singing in middle school when I kind of like built up some courage to say to the choir teacher, hey, I think I want to join your class. And while doing that, she was like, can you sing for me? And I was like, man, I don't even know if I actually can sing like that, which is funny. A lot of people are probably going to laugh listening to this if they know anything about my music. But I low key was like, can I even actually sing? Can I actually do what I think I can do? And the choir teacher was like, I want you to sing something. And I proceeded to sing something. And what's funny is she actually didn't say anything about the singing. She sent me back to class. And I was like, man, maybe I actually screwed that up even more. And I was like, dang, what? So I ended up going back to class. But at the end of the day, she approached me and she was like, I want you in my class tomorrow morning. And that kind of started off my whole journey of like singing all together. So I didn't even start in church singing. It kind of was the next step to what was happening. My mom being a pastor and being heavy in ministry was kind of like, well, if you can sing for the world, You can sing for God. If you can sing for the world, boy, you can sing for God. And I was like, oh, you're right. Yeah, I guess. And ironically, like the first selection that I actually got asked to sing by my choir teacher was Amazing Grace. And I think that's so cool for my journey, but also very ironic because I didn't start singing gospel in a church where most people would think I probably actually started, but I actually started in a middle school choir program. And the thing she wanted me to sing was Amazing Grace. And that's so fitting for the journey. But after that, like my mom threw me in every choir imaginable. If you have a parent like me who was heavy into ministry or is heavy involved in church, like everything goes back to God. Back then, I was like, I don't know, ma. Like, but now I understand what my mom actually was trying to do. But I was in every choir imaginable. I was in youth choir. I was in young adult choir. I was in the men's choir. I was in the mass choir. And if they could, they put me on the praise team too. And man, oh my God. I don't actually even know how I was doing it, but that now that I think about it, I was like, that's pretty insane. But that's kind of where I got my journey started. And then I met a mentor along the way who believed in me and began to kind of work with me and with music and gospel music. And that mentor actually called me. His name is James Madry. That mentor actually called me to lead worship at his church for the first time. And I believe I was 19 when he started this church, and I was officially a worship leader at 19, and that's crazy. When I think about it, I actually I don't think James actually gave me an option about whether I was gonna do it or not. He seen something in me, and he was like, "Yeah, we need to perfect this," and that hence started my journey with worship. And now, if you know, like I've kind of been on the scene. Before 19, I was already singing gospel music, but I've been on the scene with music for about 15 years now, doing worship music, but also doing other music ventures outside of even just the church here recently. But my expertise and where God has kind of like built me has been in worship for the last 15 years. And I've done so many things, and I've been quite a few places, and I've worked with quite a few artists now, and it has been a crazy journey. And I was just kind of like, man, I wonder if there's anyone else that kind of felt like me. I had mentors, and I had James, of course, but James, kind of early in that journey, actually passed away, which is a thing that I kind of went through that was really hard and a really hard season for me. But he taught me a whole lot before he left. But there was often a lot of times that I was like, man, while I'm on this journey, I wish there was a space or mentor I can go to that would have educated me that a life of worship ministry is not just about the smoke and the lights. And yeah, you may feel like this rock star sometimes, but it's a lot more than that. And I felt like from God, like I needed to build a space like that. Hence the podcast. Now, let's talk about this podcast. Y'all, I procrastinated so heavy on this. And why I procrastinated so heavy on this is now thinking back, I'm like, that's crazy. You should have kind of did it like with faith. But y'all, like, I'm not gonna lie to you, it with the big places that I've been, it's God has like revealed to me gifts of like speaking, but also I've been doing worship for so long, and I've learned something about myself. It's almost easier to sing in front of these large stadiums than to speak. Y'all, I'm like low key out here when I'm speaking, I feel like butt naked. When I'm singing, it's not a whole lot to hide behind when you're singing either, because like it's all you, all there. But like I don't know what the difference is about speaking, but God has kind of been working on my heart for a while about this thing where He wants me to speak and use my gift to speak, and not just sing. So hence the podcast. Now, God gave me the podcast back in 2022, and I started some things, and then I got discouraged, and then I started some things again, and I was like, man, I don't know if I have what it takes, and I had a little bit of self-doubt, and then I started again, and then I dealt with some perfectionism, and was just kind of like, man, like, and then in that season, I like dove into other worship pursuits, and I allowed myself to get so busy that I just didn't. Now, fast forward to 2025, where we are currently, and God like has done something different with my worship. About 3 years ago, I actually stepped down from worship for a little bit. And while in that season, God dealt with my heart with some healing and some things. But He also kind of chatted with my heart about using these other gifts, that I'm not just a singer. Like, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. There was sometimes I got lost in the vein of just being a worship singer and worship pastor and leader. And I dove into that thing and was kind of like running for my life away from even the thought of speaking or preaching or using other gifts. But God sat me down, and like while I was sitting, God was just like, yo, remember that thing I gave you? I want you to pick that back up. And that's where we are. We're here with the Worship Afterisms podcast. Now, in this journey of starting this podcast, I strongly feel like the Holy Spirit has spoke with me about a couple things as it pertains to my heart posture of even starting this podcast. And I was chatting with God just about ministry and being on platform and being kind of like taken off a platform, and God setting me in this space. And God started talking to my heart about this concept of being among them. And I was like, God, what does that actually mean? Like, among them, among them. And then God kind of showed me these examples of how Jesus hardly ever preached in the temple. He hardly was in the church, which we see now as the church, the temple, the church that we go to, the physical building. When He did ministry, when Jesus did ministry, you would often find Him among the people. And I found that so funny, because it's like, all right, God, here we go. But I found something very surprising, that I'm not sure if anybody else can relate to, but I found this very surprising. As soon as I came off the platform, the level of conversations and influence and the type of people that I met and got the chance to actually talk to and spread Jesus to was a whole lot different. Now, here's something that I absolutely hated. I'll give you one thing I hated when I was in when I was on platform in worship. Often people make this thought in their head that you are unapproachable. So you often have to like make yourself more approachable, or you have to find ways to become more welcoming. But I don't know what it is, but in the psyche, like when you're in a different position, they elevate you at this space that is like, no, that makes you feel to them as untouchable. But in the background, you're like, no, I'm human. I want nothing more than for y'all to like come up and say, hey, Chris, how you doing? Like, don't put me on that pedestal. Hey, get that out of here, bro. I don't want that. Like, I don't want that pedestal. Like, Jesus is the only thing. Like, he is the only one that should be high and lifted up. I don't want that, bro. That's too much weight. But often, like, it happens. Like, it happens a lot. And you get stuck, like, in this space where people position you in a certain place. But Jesus, as I was saying, was kind of chatting with me about being among them. And I started thinking about that, and I was like, man, I could do a lot more if I'm with the people.
Hey, y'all, if you made it this far, you are incredible. Hey, I just want to stop and say thank you for joining us on the Worship Afterisms podcast. You are amazing. Also, I wanted to remind you, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe, and share this episode with a friend. We hope this is helping you. Also, do know if you're looking for other ways to support us, you can follow us on our merch shop, where every purchase that you purchase helps towards the donation of keeping this show going forward. Now, let's get back into this week's episode.
So, what are my hopes for this podcast, and who is it for? My hopes for this podcast is to create a safe space for other leaders who are feeling very alone with the stories and the things that are happening with them, and the hardship, and even the good moments that should be celebrated. The leaders that feel kind of alone in that, because you kind of feel like you're out on this. Sometimes, man, when you get into ministry, you feel like you're out on this island by yourself. And I just want to create a space where people can hear other people and other leaders saying and dealing with the exact same situations, but then also giving faith back to you, so that you aren't discouraged, that it isn't one of those things that feel like, man, is something wrong with me? Is that why this is happening? No, this is things that we deal with. But then on the side note, like, I always have a heart for our youth and our next upcoming leaders. Like, God's given us this space right now to occupy, but who occupies it when we can't do it anymore? That's the next leaders, the upcoming leaders. And I want to get rid of this idea for the next leader that it's all lights and glam, and it's the smoke and the lights, and I'm going to become this rock star of worship, and I'm going to, like, man, I'm gonna pick up my guitar and I'm gonna be a superhero for Jesus, right? But there's a lot more behind that. Yeah, we have some really awesome moments on platform where there's an atmosphere that's created with lights and smoke that's really cool, and God's heart shows up. But what happens, honestly, in the green room? What ministry happens after the song? What takes place after Sundays? Because worship ministry and being a leader doesn't stop after Sunday. Like, it keeps going into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then we show up on Sunday again, and we have to posture our hearts and be ready for whatever that pinnacle moment right there is. And honestly, that's the least of your ministry. Like, that's 2 hours out of all the things that God is actually calling you to do. So I want to educate and enlighten our next generation so that the mistakes that I've made or the mistakes that my friends made aren't the same mistakes that have to happen for our upcoming leaders. I think they can learn from us. And I think that's really, 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 really cool. I asked a lot of my people either what their biggest challenge is or what's happening for them in worship. So I'll share with you guys one of my biggest challenges in worship. It is crazy, but one of the things that I dealt with as I have been becoming a worship leader and a worshiper and an independent artist is and just a singer as a whole is this thing of like changing myself to fit what suits or is comfortable to other people, and not always being authentically what God created me to be, but sometimes like falling back out of fear that I might scare people from what God's called me to be. I don't know about anybody else, but I feel like I'm just this radical kid from Kansas City. I don't know, wait, y'all, like, okay, so I always get, and this is a side note, I always get in this debate with friends that Kansas City country is not a thing. But I low-key would call myself, I'm just a little worshiper, Kansas City country boy who so happens to be radical in his faith. And y'all had to let me know, is Kansas City country a thing or is it not a thing? I don't know. But I feared that I would scare people or my gift would outshine others. So I often changed myself to suit the culture of the spaces that I was in. But what's funny is like God wouldn't ever let me stay there too long before he was like, come on out. That's not what I created you to be. And I was already, I was always kind of like pushing buttons once I showed something different. So one of my biggest challenges was showing up authentically, honestly. And then also, I would say, what is what's a funny moment I had in worship? Okay, y'all. So this is like low key funny to me, but not necessarily probably funny to anyone else. But y'all, so like a part of my journey, like leading worship, I actually led for young adults and youth. And man, when you lead for youth, you have to be very energetic and upbeat with them and hype up the room. And y'all, I'm a bigger guy. So jumping is not always the best, but I'm going to go 100%. I'm gonna go ham and make sure that I dedicate myself to exactly what is necessary for the time, y'all. I remember I was in a worship set and I was actually being energetic and I was jumping. And I started jumping and jumping and jumping and jumping and jumping. And we was having fun and we was having a worship moment. And I don't know what happened, y'all, but like I came down on my knee and that thing gave out like I was 82. Y'all, and I was really low-key mad because I'm not that old. I'm only 31 and my knee like it it succumbed under the weight of glory. The weight of glory. No, it was more like the weight of my body. Like, and man, it's funny, but it also led to conviction that I needed to work on my size. We can be out here doing these things, but it's also holy to be healthy. What's my worship afterism? Y'all, I think it has a lot to do, again, with authenticity. My worship afterism, I feel like when you're not authentic, you're actually lying to people and yourself about who you are, and you're not actually showing up fully. Um, and a lot of times, it wasn't until I had been a good couple years into the flow, um, at certain places, that the authentic Chris would show up on platform, but he didn't always show up authentically everywhere. Um, and my aphorism is, yo, man, God created each and every one of us to be different. He created a sound of worship in each and every one of us that's different, but it tugs on the heart of God, and it's meant to heal people around you. And your particular sound, God has designated to a particular people. And when you aren't authentic in your worship, when you're not authentic with who you are and who God has called you to be, I often use the analogy, who God created you to be out in the field. And I get that analogy from David, in the Bible, was cultivated in the field. It wasn't when he defeated Goliath or when he went to war, but he was cultivated in the field when he was actually tending to the sheep. Um, and that person is who God is calling you to be. God cultivated something inside of you that he built and taught you in the field. Um, and my biggest mistake is not always showing up. My big, let's put it this way, if we put in the analogy of David Steele, my biggest mistake was putting on Saul's armor. Think about that one. Woo! Jesus! Woo! My biggest mistake was putting on Saul's armor, y'all. But then when that thing was not fitting me right, I ultimately stripped it off. And I could have saved myself so much time and hurt and all the things if I had just been like, nope, that armor doesn't fit me. So I got to show up with what I got and who God called me to be. So that's my biggest worship afterism. Y'all, I am so excited about the people that have already said yes to this podcast, but those who I have not even met yet that are going to say yes. And they're going to have so much to say to you. I've been praying over this thing, and yes, I'm still a little nervous and praying, but like, I'm on a new journey, and you guys are getting a chance to go on it with me in the most authentic way and most vulnerable way. And I'm just so ready to learn. The cool part, though, y'all, is like, as I'm doing this podcast, like, I'm gonna get to sit with people that I've met and have relationships with, but those I haven't met yet and don't have relationships with, and I'm gonna get to learn with you. And that is so exciting to me. And I'm super excited about that. So, y'all, let's get started on this journey with Worship Afterisms.
What's up, y'all? This is Chris August, your host of the Worship Afterisms podcast. And I just got done recording the first episode of Worship Afterisms, y'all. I cannot tell you enough how much I thank you for even joining us. But don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. And also share this with a friend. I can't wait. Let's go.